Well, thanks everybody for joining us for ILOC 2024. And for this session, Toward Gigabit Libraries, we're glad you're here. I'm Bonnie McEwen with the Northwest District Office of the State Library. And my colleague Amanda Grum is with us as well, and we have two speakers lined up to talk with us about Toward Gigabit Libraries. I'll introduce them in just a second. I think you will be interested to hear about the Toward Gigabit Libraries Toolkit. Just a quick reminder first, though, if you've heard this once, you'll hear it again throughout the day. Audience members do not have access to cameras and microphones during ILOC, but there's always the chat space. So we hope you'll take advantage of that and use the chat space to send any questions or comments. I'll keep an eyeball on that and make sure to let our speakers know if you have questions for them, and they will likely address those toward the end. We will also, at the end of our time together, put up a link to our conference evaluation. We hope you will fill that out, but only once, please, when the conference is finished for you. We roll until 7 o'clock tonight, so if you can stay with us all day, all night, that's awesome. If you need to log out sooner than that, just answer the evaluation when the conference is over for you. And so with that, we'll get rolling with Toward Gigabit Libraries. You see on the slide that there's a toolkit by that name, and it is a free resource to help libraries learn about and improve their current broadband infrastructure and their current IT environment. Using the Toward Gigabit Libraries toolkit helps staff become better equipped to improve broadband service and become stronger advocates for their library internet needs. So to tell us more about this toolkit are Jessica Schlusselman and Stephanie Stenberg. Jessica has worked for 20 years in telecommunications in roles like sales and marketing and management. She works with a variety of telecom providers, from rural to nationwide providers, from wholesalers, resellers, and she believes that Iowa's education and future are best served when we invest in institutions like our libraries. That's music to our ears, may I say. And she believes that providing easy to access and reliable connectivity is an important step in supporting libraries. Stephanie Stenberg, also our speaker this morning, is the director of the Internet to Community Anchor Program, where she works with regional networking partners, including K-12 schools and libraries, with the goal of bringing networking to community anchor institutions like our libraries. She has a bachelor's degree from the University of Michigan, a law degree from Wayne State University, and is currently working toward her Digital Inclusion Leadership Certificate at Arizona State. So we are so happy to have both of you with us today to tell us more about the Gigabit Libraries Toolkit. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Bonnie. Thank you for that lovely introduction, and to Bonnie and Amanda for having us here today. So we are here to talk about how libraries can be more advanced into the future with connectivity and other services that can support those libraries. When I was asked to help out with this event today, I was really excited because as a lifelong Iowan and somebody who grew up in rural Iowa, I know how important our libraries are, especially, the connectivity and the resources that are available to students in some of those communities through our libraries. So thank you all for allowing me to be here today and share some of this information with you. Some of the things that we are going to cover. There's Stephanie and I, in case you haven't seen us on screen. Some of the things that we're going to cover today, but we'll just do a little quick information about the ICN, some of the services that we provide that are important to libraries. We're going to talk about Internet 2 and the Community Anchor Program, why that is important to libraries. And then we're also going to cover some of those free Community Anchor Program resources that can help support our libraries. So we'll go ahead and get started. So some of you may be familiar with the Iowa Communications Network. If you're a longtime Iowa resident, you've probably heard of us. We've been around for about 35 years. The ICN was primarily established to serve Iowa's education, to serve students, to serve teachers, and to bring resources and connectivity into areas that might traditionally be difficult to get to because of the rural nature of our state. So the ICN has been here supporting education, supporting schools and libraries for a long time. And over the years, we have also expanded to support some other areas of Iowa's infrastructure. So public safety, 911 facilities, things like that, those public safety answering points are supported by ICN services. Government offices, so our federal and state agencies that are using the ICN to connect their offices. Education, of course, K through 12 schools, universities, community colleges, libraries, and then healthcare. So our network is used by many, both rural and urban healthcare providers. And we support telehealth and all sorts of other, healthcare applications as far as getting imaging, getting information back and forth between those facilities. So some of the ICN services that we provide that can be really vital are especially related to cybersecurity. So if you read the news at all, you know that cybersecurity in all sectors, but especially in the education sector here in Iowa, has been kind of a hot topic. The ICN provides several services that can help schools and libraries and other entities combat those types of attacks and protect themselves. One of the things that we do is manage firewalls. We provide both Palo Alto and Fortinet. So those are very, popular in the industry, very well supported devices. We provide DDoS mitigation. So some of those cyber attacks where people are sending, thousands and multiple requests to servers in an effort to shut down servers, we can help detect and protect entities against those. And we provide consultation. So there are a lot of entities that may not have a large staff, they may not have a depth of knowledge around cybersecurity or around some of those IT needs, and we can come in, help them do assessments, help them determine, where there might be gaps and vulnerabilities and where we can help assist them with combating those. So just a snapshot of the last 12 months, we have detected over 40,000 DDoS attacks on the state's network, and those have been successfully mitigated by the ICN. Now, if you compare that to the previous 12 months, there were about 11,000. So we're talking about, a 400% increase in the last year almost in those types of attacks. So it's really becoming a widespread problem. And we're starting to see, entities that may not have thought they were threatened by those types of things, are starting to get more concerned because it is getting so widespread. The longest of those attacks put clients out for almost half a day. That's a really long time for any, entity, especially one that's providing services to, the citizens of Iowa. That's a long time for those services not to be available. The largest DDoS attack was 1.74 terabytes. That's a huge amount of information, whether that's being, held captive, whether it's being corrupted. That's a lot of data to try to recover or to try to, get in there and clean up when those attacks happen. So some food for thought about some things that, may not have been top of mind in the past. We're certainly not trying to, frighten anybody, but it's just a matter of being aware that these things can really start to impact entities that might not have ever worried about it before. A couple other services that we provide, and these really are, more backbone infrastructure type services for your libraries. So obviously you guys need internet connectivity. In some areas, you're providing a place for students to come do research, do work when they may not have good connectivity at home. So it's really important that those connections be not only robust, but that they be well supported, that they be secure. So the ICN is going to be able to provide scalability. We have service level agreements. We have a high availability network and a lot of redundancy built into that network. So it's very easy for our libraries to come to the ICN and get that type of connectivity and really have it be a turnkey solution. Similar with our voice service. So, you need to have a phone there, right? Folks are going to call the library. They're going to want to know if a book is in. They're going to want to know if the library is open, all those types of things. So you really, you need some connectivity there also for emergency type purposes. So we can provide phones that are going to be plug and play. Folks can, have their own phone number. They can have their own voicemail. We can support a lot of those features that you'd see in a traditional phone system, but it's really all encapsulated into a very simple, you call us and we set you up with a phone number and send you a phone. So having these types of solutions in place, we hope makes it easier for libraries. Again, who, the librarian and the librarian assistant might be kind of the whole staff there, right? So you can look to us to help kind of navigate through some of these things that you guys might need. And so with that, I'm going to go ahead and hand things over to Stephanie. Stephanie's got a ton of amazing information about Internet 2 and how you guys can leverage that to your advantage. So I will let Stephanie take it away.
Well, thank you so much, Jessica. And so my name's Stephanie, and I wanted to let you know that I am working with, hold on one second, please. You see my my full screen, I'm sure. There we go.
Oh, not yet.
Yep, hold on one second, please. I have to say, I have the fortune of working with several different state networks, and I'm so grateful to be able to work with ICN because it remains just one of the most customer-facing networks that we ever have. I apologize, we have this worked a second ago. Hold on, please. Are you seeing
I can see your screen, Stephanie.
my presentation though?
Well, I'm seeing your whole desktop.
Yeah, sorry about that. Embarrassing. How about now?
No.
I apologize. Let me try one more time. Apologize. I'm going to try one more time. I apologize, everyone. This may be how we have to go today. I'm sorry. How's this for everyone? Can you see?
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. So my name is Stephanie Stenberg, and I work at the Community Anchor Program. And I know everyone here is kind of wondering, well, why should I care about the Community Anchor Program? And my main message is free resources for you. So if you all could help me out with pasting into the chat some of the links, but if you go to internet2.edu/libraries, you will find all of the resources I'm going to talk about. You will also find that in the copy of our slides, as well as a great handout that you can share with your library staff and other libraries you may know. So a little bit about Internet 2. Internet 2 is a huge infrastructure that actually stretches all the way across the United States. You're going to see all the little dotted lines. Our members include higher education members, industry members like maybe Google or Amazon, affiliate members. There we're talking like NASA, the National Weather Service. There are 46 what we call research and education networks, and that is like ICN, the Iowa Communications Network that connects our community anchor institutions like libraries. And Internet 2 is basically the research and education network for the United States. So most developed nations have one. Internet 2 is the very mid-90s name of the one I work for in the United States. I'm the director of the Community Anchor Program. I work with Therese Perlowski. She is the program manager. We work with all the nonprofit research and education networks like ICN, and we help serve the over 80,000 community anchor institutions that connect to Internet 2. So what does that mean? If you're using the internet in your library, we want to find ways to help you do it successfully. So about 20% of the libraries in the United States already connect to the Internet 2 network through those state networks like ICN. And our goal is to just get more libraries connected because, as you heard, networks like ICN, they are a mission-focused organization, and they work with community anchor institutions like public libraries in a way that you're not going to find most other commercial providers doing. It's such a great mission-driven partnership. So one of the free resources that the Community Anchor Program provides for K-12 schools and for libraries is something called the Presidential Primary Sources Project. These are some fabulous live interactive discussions with presidential historians, and it is a longstanding partnership among Internet 2, the National Park Service, and the National Archives. And so what we do is we actually put on every date you see on these slides. We have 2 sessions a day. There is a live hour session. So I'm in our Ann Arbor, Michigan office with Therese Perlowski, and she ducked out of our meeting at 11 a.m. Eastern to run one of our sessions about President Clinton's 1994 State of the Union address. So we follow things that are a little more recent, like President Clinton, and then we move on to things like FDR and Teddy Roosevelt. So it's very fun. They're all geared toward grades 4 through 12, interactive sessions, as well as live. You can choose that your library patrons or your classroom be one of the interactive classrooms, or you can observe. And all of these presidential museums use primary sources to help teach students about that. So you'll see last year, we had 350 classrooms across 47 states. We completed 46 programs and reached over 15,000 students. So we beat our last year's attendance by over 3,000 students, and we did have Iowa students participating thanks to ICN's great outreach. We would love to increase the number of public libraries participating as well. Here, I'm going to give you a little video clip of one of our Presidential Primary Sources Project sessions. You're going to meet Ted Urban, who is just one of my favorite, or Jeff Urban, one of my favorite people. He is going to tell you how FDR designed his wheelchair, and he's going to use fun primary sources like a little finger on a stick, very old school, and a model of the wheelchair to teach kids just how things look different back then. So it's kind of fun.
Now, this was important for FDR to design this wheelchair because back in the day, this is what wheelchairs looked like. They were big, giant, enormous things. You know, how are you going to get around any place in that? Look at that back wheel. It looks like something off a tractor or something, doesn't it? So he designed this kind of sportier model of a wheelchair so that he could get around and be a little bit more independent. Now, the other thing you might notice about this is that if you look over here, what do you think this thing is over here? What do you think that circular thing is? Right, it's an ashtray. Boys and girls, Franklin Roosevelt was a big-time smoker, and today he's dead.
So, very, very wise words from the Presidential Primary Sources Project. But that's just an example of how we take really fun subjects and we just have the most passionate teachers interacting with the kids. Sometimes we will have educators taking students around the grounds of where Lincoln was raised and showing us the buildings. It's really fun. Again, totally free, totally open to anyone. All you have to do is go to our website, internet2.edu/PPSP, sign up. It's incredible. And you'll see Therese on the next call later today if you really want to check it out. Now we have one more really great opportunity for public or school librarians. So if you're a K-12 librarian or you know someone, this is as easy as filling out a short Google form and collecting $400 to go to the most amazing, interactive one-on-one distance learning field trip for your class. So if you go to internet2.edu/CAP scholarship, we have a really easy to fill out form. You go to the Center for Interactive Learning and Collaboration. We have that link right in the form. You can choose from over 2,000 one-on-one classes. These are, they range from things like you can meet the seals in the tank at the Alaska Zoo and learn about the Arctic waters. You can dissect a sheep's eye and they send the sheep's eyes to you for your classroom to dissect. Those are kind of some of the more higher end. You can learn about climate science in Australia. It's all just really fun. So I will tell you this on here. You can't hold me to it, but I've never had to turn someone down if their school was connected to the Internet 2 network. We tell everybody apply because sometimes you don't know who your internet provider is. Anyone connected to the ICN network is eligible to receive one of these. And if you're in the same district as a teacher who's applying, or there's another library in your area, that's not going to disqualify you or make you less likely to win. So please, we encourage everyone to apply. The deadline is February 15th. So please share that far and wide. The CILC, the Center for Interactive Learning and Collaboration, is a great free and low cost distance learning resource. We actually have a list of the Community Anchor Program, mine and Teresa's favorite curriculum resources. They span the globe. So this is a little run through of our page. We have biology, astronomy. So you can learn from the Smithsonian Museum of Art. You can go to Ask a Biologist, which you can you can pick any different scientists you want to learn from. They have hundreds you could learn from, and you can connect them with your classroom for free. Those are just two of the really exciting curriculum resources we have. So please check that out. And now I'd like to talk to you about what I like to think of as our crowning achievement, especially of this year. We get to release the very, very brand new version of the Toward Gigabit Libraries Toolkit and Broadband Improvement Plan. And this is something we created from two separate Institute of Museum and Library Services grants. And thank you to James Neal, our Senior Program Officer at IMLS, Carson Block with Carson Block Consulting, Bonnie Nichols, and Therese Perlowski, as well as our predecessors, James Worley and Susanna Spellman. Now, we're going to pop a link in the chat to download the latest version of the toolkit that has just been made available on our website, I think this morning for this crowd. So you are getting the first crack at our latest version of the toolkit. We just wrapped up our grant. I'm going to play you a quick video about how to use the toolkit, and then I'll just walk you through the sections. This is totally free, especially geared toward rural and tribal libraries. And I think the biggest challenge is cracking it open. So hopefully this video shows you that it shouldn't be that hard.
Welcome. This video is designed to give you an ultra-quick overview of how to use the Toward Gigabit Libraries Toolkit. You'll be up and running in no time. The Toolkit is a free open-source technology learning, diagnostic, and advocacy tool designed for public and tribal libraries in the U.S. But the Toolkit can be used just about anywhere in the world. The Toolkit will guide you through a series of questions about your technology environment and provide you with all the information you need to answer the questions. The Toolkit is an excellent way to diagnose and fix problems that you may be having with your library technology. Some libraries have found it especially useful in preparing for E-rate requests, budget cycles, and even in helping open up lines of communication between library staff and tech workers. Best of all, you do not need to be a techie to use the Toolkit. While it's always helpful to have someone with technical knowledge to assist, this toolkit was piloted with more than 60 rural and tribal libraries in 11 states to ensure that it is as simple as possible for you to use. The toolkit is divided into several key sections, covering the types of technical challenges you're likely to encounter in your library and ways to solve those challenges. In the Technology Inventory section, you will find and understand some of the key pieces of the technology inside your library, including your network, computers, and other important technology components. This inventory will help you understand what sort of equipment you have now and provide a basis to determine if you need different or additional equipment for the future. In the Broadband Services and Activities section, the types of broadband services and applications are discussed in order to ensure that you have sufficient bandwidth to support patron and staff use of various devices and applications, both today and into the future. Technology in libraries is more than just a collection of gear. People, including library staff and those who provide technical support, are just as important. In the Broadband Technical Operations Support section, you will learn more about the people who help make technology available in your library and determine if there are any areas where you could benefit from additional support. Technology expenses are important budget considerations for all libraries. In the broadband funding section, you'll learn about several opportunities available to help provide funding for your library broadband connectivity. The topics listed in the Additional Resources and Best Practices section are designed to provide you even more insight and resources into improving your library's broadband connectivity and services. You may find these items helpful in gaining a better understanding of your broadband connection, data network, and computers. The toolkit also has a handy glossary section at the end for quick lookups of technical terms. And don't worry about completing the toolkit from end to end. It is designed to address the most common technology issues in libraries, so it does cover a lot of ground. You may need to only work through the sections that are the most important to you. After you've completed the toolkit, you can use another document called the Broadband Improvement Plan to create your own long-term and short-term strategies to improve your technology. Wondering how to find the toolkit materials? Everything is available at our website. The toolkit is free and open source. And if you like, you are free to use anything from the toolkit and mix it into other documents. This may be especially useful for state library organizations, rural and education networks, library consortiums, and others who would like to customize the toolkit materials. After you've used the toolkit and the Broadband Improvement Plan, we would love to hear from you. Click on the link in the comments section of this video to share your experiences. Now, grab the toolkit and make it your own.
All right, well, that was our YouTube video. It was actually created for the first version of our toolkit, which was an IMLS grant that ended, I believe, it was a 2018 IMLS grant. So this is just a little more about the toolkit. The video gives you such a great overview. What we love about it is it's not just educating you, you are assessing the library as you go along and learn, and ultimately you can use it as an advocacy tool as well. And so what we talked about, there are a lot of different components. That video was from the first iteration of the toolkit. I'll tell you, I think it was 62 pages. Now it's 118 pages. So we added 2 sections, building a network of support and advocating for your library, and really just went to town on the broadband and IT funding opportunity section as well, in a way that we hadn't before. And we were able to do this by more pilot sites and more research. Every single link has been touched, researched, and updated. And so the toolkit, it took you through some of the sections, but I'm going to just tell you a little bit more about how it works. So what I love about the toolkit is you don't have to do it from start to finish. It's long. If I just want to know something about the equipment I have in my library, that's the section I'm going to, and I'm just going to do that. And what I love about it is it doesn't assume you know anything. Like they say, no techies required. So it's never going to say how many hubs you have and just never tell you anything about, well, what the heck is a hub? How do I figure out what it looks like? We have, links so you can read more about it, how you can distinguish it from a switch or a router, and here's what it might look like. So we are giving you all the information you need and all the resources to educate yourself, as well as work your way through the questions. We've found that the way libraries are using the toolkit, what we love about it is it's open source. So we've had libraries such as the Pennsylvania State Library take portions of the toolkit and turn it into library training. The State Broadband Office of Hawaii is also working with us to adapt the toolkit to different digital inclusion efforts in their state. But what I love is it is just a way to get on paper your snapshot of your library. What does your library's IT infrastructure even look like? Because just because you work at the library doesn't mean A, you're the IT person, or B, you even know what happens beyond the Wi-Fi just making your computer work. So it's low tech. You print out the toolkit, you walk to where the internet comes into your building, and you start from there. And what I love is this really opens up the line of communication, because if the only way your library staff is interfacing with any kind of IT help is just, we have a problem, we don't even have the language to tell you what's going on, then that's a non-starter. But here, if we're both working on this document together and we approach it as a team, that's a really different communication method and really gets people on the same page. And then you get a baseline. So you're never going to know how to improve your library until you actually know what's going on there. So you get the baseline. And that's extremely important, especially when maybe somebody changes jobs, and then you at least have a record of all of that information. So this has some of the updated pages in the toolkit. We worked on improving the design. So, it's not going to assume you even know what kind of internet connection your library has. If you are with ICN, I guarantee you have a fast, what's called symmetrical. So your download speed, like if you're downloading a video, in a perfect world, your download speed is the same as what's called your upload speed. So if you're loading pictures online, if you are having a Zoom conversation, you are uploading. So when they talk about 23 megabits per second down, 3 megabits per second up, the technical definition of broadband, which isn't very fast anymore, that's what they're talking about. ICN, you get the same amount of download as upload, which is great when you're talking about moving big amounts of files. Anyone who's doing gaming or esports, telehealth visits, or Zooming. So it's really great how we help you figure that out as well. We don't only think about what's your situation now, but we also try to prompt people to have some forward thinking about the issue. So we might know that our bandwidth is slow. Well, let's try to think about, if bandwidth wasn't a constraint, if the internet was super fast in your library, what would you be doing? Would you run maybe a Fortnite group for the teens in your library? Would you host master classes for your adult learners? Would you have a telehealth hub or a job application hub? There's so many different ways to do it that we kind of work with you to envision what you want your library to look like. When it comes to technical operational support, that's often not available to libraries who use this section or use this toolkit. So we encourage you to kind of go outside what might be like the normal ideas of what your IT person might be. Do you have a volunteer that loves the library who's really techie and great with a phone? Pull that person in. We're looking to build your team to figure out who you can call on. And that even includes your ISP as your internet service provider. So you're picking up the phone, you're calling Spectrum, you're calling Comcast, you're calling ICN if you have that issue and you want to deal with it. One of the really great sections we added is called Building a Network of Support and Advocating for Your Library. Not only does it take you through, building your library's unique strengths and really executing on an outreach plan, it really works on the messaging as well and has some really incredible resources for projects other people have already done and how to evaluate your efforts. I have to say, one of the most fast-moving sections is definitely our broadband and IT funding opportunities. Obviously, as you're assessing your network, your library network is only going to be as good as your worst piece of equipment, right? People don't think about wires need to be upgraded, all these different things. So when we look at all the components, we start to be able to figure out, what do we need to beef up in our library and how are we going to fund it? what I love about this, they say no techies required. Well, it's no real accountants required, because we don't say, hey, here are the links that are going to take you to all of this library funding. We say, okay, well, let's just look at the library budget first. Do you have a line item for technology? Because if your library budget is $1,000 or $2,000, you might not even have a line item or not think about technology every year. So we start from that baseline. We provide 2 different sample technology budgets, one for kind of a larger library, one for a very small library, and other really baseline things that will bring you along, including a lot of grant and funding resources that are just really great opportunities right now. I'm really proud of the additional resources and best practices section. If you see these red titles, these are the different sections we now have in it. So a whole section on digital inclusion. I really love, obviously, the grant funding and opportunities section, but also free tech training opportunities and resources, and the purchasing guides. So we found our favorite purchasing guides, PC Mag, some different really well vetted resources. So if you're thinking, okay, we do need to look at computers, where are some trusted places to go check it out? Also, for this, just a huge glossary. We're not going to assume you know any words. Router, modem, most people think of them as the same thing, but a modem and a router can be separate. So we kind of define everything for you and talk about, when you hear a WAN and a LAN, a wide area network or a local area network, we hear all of those different things. As people go through the toolkit, these are the common problems we find with the libraries. Insufficient bandwidth obviously is a huge one. I think that's a really easy one for people to flag. Trickier is data wiring. You know, how most people aren't thinking about that, but how old is your building? What's the capacity your wires have? Ethernet cables actually have a little number and sometimes letter on them. So is yours a category 5 cable? Is it a category 8 cable? They carry different amounts of data and are different speeds. So we help you work with that. If I'm sure you see some of your issues here, and it truly can be something as easy as, hey, we figured out a way to fix our Wi-Fi coverage because we learned how to explore where the dead spots were. At the end of whatever sections of the toolkit you choose to do, you're going to work on a broadband improvement plan. Here I put together a sample short-term action for you, so you'll see. Sometimes people have their Wi-Fi router that's broadcasting the Wi-Fi signal, and it actually will be right where the internet comes into the building, but that's not necessarily where the patrons are. So sometimes one of the really great short-term action plans is to relocate that so that you're really improving the speed where everyone is sitting and being in the library. Another thing is sometimes you don't have your contract readily available. So that's usually a short-term action item, is to really get on the phone, start asking about the service that you have and the service you're entitled to. Longer term action plans are things requiring more planning, more research. It could be exploring other broadband options, or deciding next year we're going to participate in the E-rate program. So I didn't want this just to be a talking head. We'll take some questions, but if you have your phone handy, I don't know how techie everyone here is, but if you grab your phone, you can point the camera at this QR code and it'll just take you to speedtest.net. Another alternative is there's an MLab speed test. Your speedtest.net, when you connect to the Wi-Fi network in your library, and you have to remember to do that, you will be able to run a live speed test on what your download speed that we said was when you're downloading, bringing in information, and your upload speed when you're putting information out into the universe. And so that's going to help you figure out how fast is the internet in my library and what is my internet contract saying I'm getting. We actually provide you with a speed test recording worksheet, which is listed and free in the slides. And what we love about this is you take your measurements. You can use what we call that speedtest.net, the UCLA speed test, and the measurement lab. Do it throughout the day and see, busy times in the library, what are you getting versus, when no one's there. And you'll start to see some patterns emerge. We also have a Wi-Fi analyzer that we recommend. If for Android or iOS, there's some different apps, but it's called a Wi-Fi analyzer or Stumbler. And what you are actually able to do is see all the Wi-Fi networks that come into your library. So the Netgear one we see in orange is the library network where the signal's really clear, but you see all the other interference that comes in here too, which we're not going to get into it today, but can reveal, some issues you're having. You also can measure the strength of the Wi-Fi signal at any given part of your library. As you walk around, you're going to see it go up and down, and you'll realize where your dead spots are. You know how I said we'd walk to where the internet comes into the building? That's all part of mapping out how everything connects, because it's just one thing connects to the next. So we take you through where your internet comes in the building to the broadband device, like your modem, your router, your switch, your computers. And we look at all of those components. We say that a lot of times places like ICN or Internet 2 focus on the last mile of connectivity. We say the Toward Gigabit Libraries Toolkit is actually the last 100 feet. It's when it gets into your library, what you do with it. So if this sounds interesting to you, I swear the hardest thing is opening it up and just taking a look and seeing what you can take away from it. So what you're looking at here is a picture of some of the state librarians. We had an adjacent meeting at the Chicago ALA conference this past year. And so we invited a bunch of state librarians to come, and I'm taking a QR code on taking a picture of a QR code on a hilariously small screen. But we were all, running speed tests and practicing different things. So when we come out to do trainings, we will actually have everyone download the speed test, and we can kind of take our measurements and decide if it's acceptable or not. And we run through some things like that. If that's of interest to you, we will be working with ICN to publicize different virtual training opportunities, as well as potentially some in-person opportunities as well. There's nothing we like more than coming out, and when we can bring copies of the toolkit, I think, again, that breaks down some of the barriers to using it. Just different ways to stay connected. I'll admit, I don't know how much everyone's on Twitter or X anymore, but we do have a Toward Gigabit Libraries Toolkit Twitter page, internet2.edu/libraries. That links to all of the resources I've talked about today. And this PDF of Internet 2 CAP library resources is basically a front and back version of what I've just talked about, with QR codes and short links with brief descriptions that we hope you can hand out to everyone and check it out. Again, all of these links are provided in the document, as well as this QR code will take you right to that PDF. And I just didn't know if anyone had any questions and comments. Thank you so much for having us today. It just has been such a pleasure. I apologize. I wasn't able to look at the chat during that. Hopefully, thank you for putting all these great links in.
Yes. Well, Stephanie, I didn't notice any questions, but I will share an observation or two.
Oh, yes.
And that is, I love conference sessions like this that raise awareness about resources that may very well be new to people who are here in the room with us today. And if that's true for you that are joining us today, I hope you will take a look at all of these links and grab a hold of this resource. Our colleague, Tricia Frazier, also with the State Library, has a much smarter observation than mine. And Tricia reminded us that we have so many small towns in Iowa, and correspondingly small town libraries where the staff really have to do it all. And
Mhm.
there are not IT specialists on library staffs in
Absolutely.
Iowa, not very not very many, and they feel compelled to do so much. So
Mhm.
I think this is sure to be useful for all of the small libraries that are in that circumstance,
I
just to
really
grab
hope
hold
so.
of this and use it. Yes.
And I will tell you, we have tried to look at it. You know, I was a trained lawyer, but I've worked in instructional design for over 10 years, and I work with a technology consultant, Carson Block. And so we together kind of layer the tech and the kind of non-tech so we can try to explain it all. I see, I love Trisha's comment. I mean,
Mhm.
truly, I think the toughest thing is opening it and just zero in on what speaks to you, because you don't have to go through everything, but just, I say my love language is links, and I'm sure librarians can identify with me here that I love research, I love links, and this whole toolkit is our link love letter to you. There are so many great hyperlinks. You can tell we love libraries a lot. Griffin has a great question
Yes.
and point about, does the toolkit cover the speed difference between wired and wireless? Yes, Griffin. And I think that's so important because people will say, oh, I have internet, I have Wi-Fi. Well, we all know a wireless signal is absolutely not the same as a super fast wired connection. That's why kind of the internet service providers, we all say, you know, fiber is the best route, and then we'll take some wireless when we can. But fiber is always the way that's going to be the fastest speed. And that's so essential if you're gaming, if you're moving large amounts of information, and especially in the post-pandemic Zoom era, we all are transmitting a ton of information with our video feeds. Especially, I don't know about you, telehealth to me has been one of the great pandemic revolutions, as well as QR codes finally getting their day. But I put my contact information in there. Please reach out if you know of a group that may be interested in any of these resources. ICN is so fabulous. We're so lucky that we get to partner with them to do outreach to Iowa libraries. We have a similar presentation we do about our favorite distance learning curriculum resources for K-12 students or K-12 school libraries that we've done as well. I just last month did a presentation to the Michigan Association of School Librarians. So really, our job is to just help you do really cool stuff with the internet that ICN provides you or your commercial internet provider provides you. But all we want to do is promote research and education in the United States. And any way we can help you do that, give us a call.
Great. Well, I don't see another question come through after Griffin's. But I want to thank you both so much for your time today and for joining our ILOC conference this year. This has been great information and very likely an entirely new and free resource that maybe many of our listeners didn't know about. So
please
I
check
hope-
it out. Let us
I
know
hope
what you
so.
think. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you
Thank you
so
both.
much.
Thanks to both of you.
Just a reminder to everyone too to fill out your CE form at your end of day, and we'll see you again over the lunch break. I'm going to end it now.
Yes.
Thank
Okay.
you.